Men and women have always been treated differently in the workplace, whether it is due to how they dress, how they present themselves, or just frankly because of their gender. Why is it that when one thinks of a successful boss, a man comes to mind, but a woman doesn't? And why, in order for a woman to be considered a successful boss, she can't also be labeled as sweet and kind? Or that men are more likely to hold higher positions and are more likely to get promoted in the workplace? Is it because of a certain quality that men possess and women tend to lack, or does it date back to when women weren't even allowed in certain sectors of the workforce? Furthermore, why is it considered normal for the sexuality of women to be exploited, whereas men are capable of being hired, working, and being promoted without these issues being as frequent?
Though it is commonly known that women are promoted less than men, many do not know why this is. They don't know the specifics of the story.
What is the number one reason why you're not promoting your female, people that you're managing? Mm-hmm. Do you know what the manager said? Number one reason. I thought she lacked the confidence.
In America, women on average are 15% less likely to be promoted than men. This occurs despite women having the same qualifications and maybe even the same age as the men who desire the same job. One problem is that women simply aren't trying to achieve top positions. However, this is because they are led to believe that they wouldn't be able to handle the stress and the pressure. Why should gender interfere with the ability to get a job done? Many will say it's because women are meant to be at home with their children and are unable to split their attention between the two roles effectively enough. Women tend to be seen as the inferior sex, but it isn't the inherent fault of women that these stereotypes exist. Women often get talked over and passed up for opportunities, including the opportunity to speak, which is one reason why they're promoted less. How can women be expected to progress in their career when they are rarely even given the chance to speak during a meeting?
We just covered the different rates of promotion that occur with each gender in the workplace, but what about the differences for when men and women actually get to the top? Decades of research have shown that if individuals are asked to list the qualities they associate with a man, being their gender stereotype, or to list the qualities they associate with leaders, they very often generate lists that are rather similar. In a study, it was shown that men were more effective problem solvers and more effective at influencing their superiors. Women, on the other hand, outperform men in mentoring, consulting, team building, and supporting their staff. But if the roles were to be switched, women would be disliked as a leader. The patterns associated with stereotypes assigned to each gender spells trouble for women. They are not seen to be a leader, and if they do enter a leadership role, they have violated their assigned part in the workplace. But men, on the other hand, are expected to hold these such roles. The fact that women hold 59% of master's degrees and make up more than 50% of the professional workforce seems to be pushed to second in line behind their gender. This idea that gender takes charge is the reason why women only make up 2% of CEO positions in the Fortune 500. This incongruity results in two possible forms of bias against female leaders. The first being lower expectations for women's potential for leadership, because leadership ability is associated with being male. And the second is lower evaluations of the female leader's actual behavior, even when she does fulfill the requirements of the leader role.
Unfortunately, sexual harassment in the workplace is not uncommon in our country. Sometimes women feel as if they need to sleep their way to the top, so to speak. As we discussed earlier, males are more likely to be in places of authority in the workplace, and they can sometimes take advantage of that. There are many cases where men corner their female coworkers, often when the men have authority over the women, and coerce them to do sexual things for them, or else they will fire them or make them become demoted. Often men will request affairs or sex in exchange for promotions for the women. Women are gaining courage, however, and starting to speak out against the harassment they are enduring while at work. Recently, women are speaking out against sexual harassment with the hashtag #MeToo campaign. This is a campaign over social media where women talk about their experiences with sexual harassment and sexual abuse.
Another form of harassment that has been noted is harassment towards the sexuality of women. The experiences of lesbian workers based on the studies of women in male-dominated work is rarely discussed. However, there does happen to be increasing interest in minority sexual orientation. For example, it is common for male workers and employers to assume that all construction trade workers who are women are lesbians. It is stated that the act of dyke baiting of all women, regardless of the sexual orientation, is another assertion of power of males over females.
From looking at topics such as promotion rates between men and women, number of male versus female CEOs, and sexual harassment in the workplace, we realize that there are many discrepancies between men and women in professional work. Some main points being 12% of women earning less than a man doing the exact same job, only only 2% of all CEOs being women, and the hashtag #MeToo campaign, revealing millions of women who have been subject to sexual harassment, many in the workplace. While this may not be news to many people, in a lot of cases it is much worse than we realize. A lot of this has to do with stereotypes against women, ingrained gender roles, and sexism. Because women aren't seen as equal in the workplace in many cases, it can be a challenge for employers to be in the mindset that they are indeed just as human as anybody else.